Hello and welcome. I am Brittany and welcome to day 1 of 7 days of yin yoga. This first day we're going to be targeting the practice towards getting into the quadriceps and the hip flexors. In yin yoga you'll often hear us talking about target areas, as this practice has more of a functional approach versus an aesthetic, meaning it's more about how you're feeling instead of how you look in the pose. So for this practice, if you have 2 blocks, that would be really nice to have, and also an extra blanket. We are going to get started right away, coming onto our backs. And if you have your blocks close by, we'll grab a block. Making our way down. We'll bend the knees, bring the soles of the feet in towards the bum. And we're going to take our block. You can choose which height. There's 3 heights. We're going to take our block all the way down to the base of the spine. There's a little flat bone there called the sacrum. I might have to wiggle the block around. And your arms, they can come just by your sides. You could keep the knees bent, or to get into the quadriceps and the hip flexors, just extending the legs out long. And of course, we're also getting into a back bend. We're purposely compressing the lower lumbar spine. And once you find your edge, so the shape in the body where you're not feeling any pain, and just closing the eyes, allowing yourself to fully arrive. You're here. You've got nothing else that you need to do for the next little while. And just tuning into the breath. Maybe the inhales and exhales become a little bit longer. And just finding a breath that feels steady and rhythmic, nothing that's forced or exaggerated. Releasing any tension you might be carrying in through your face and your jaw. Bring your awareness down into the hips. Just noticing how the lower back feels. Noticing the sensations through the quads and the front of the hips. I'm not labeling what you're feeling as good or bad. Just observing what's going on in the body. If the legs are extended out long, we'll just bend the knees and walk the feet back in towards the bum. The inhale draws the pelvis up, reaching under to move the block to one side. And we'll exhale, slowly lowering the pelvis all the way to the earth. And resisting the urge to move, just letting the pelvis settle, knowing it's very normal to feel a little bit vulnerable or fragile after that. Reaching for the knees, we'll hug the knees in towards the body, massaging the lower back as we rock side to side. And rolling over onto one side, taking our time, moving very slow. And the top arm presses us all the way up. And we'll move into half saddle. So if you have a blanket or a block, can be a really nice help for this one. So we're going to start by extending the left leg in front, and we're bending the right knee. So depending on your anatomy, you could be like me and your pelvis could be sitting right on the heel. Or if you have more internal rotation of your femur, you might be someone who sits all the way down onto your bum and the right heel comes out to the side. So again, approaching this from a functional point of view, depending on your anatomy and your bones, you're going to look different in this compared to someone else. So if your left hip is raised, you could place a block under the left hip, or you could also use a blanket. And you can stay right here with the torso sitting up tall, long through the spine. Or you could start to lean back onto the hands. You might even be able to come all the way down onto the forearms. Just listening to the body, moving through this in stages to find your edge. One pose is not better than the other. And so when you find the shape that you would like to take, the edge where you're at, close the eyes. And we're resolving to remain still. Of course, coming out if there's any pain. Or of course, moving a little bit deeper, only when the body tells you that it's okay. And then once we find stillness, we hang out here for some time, relaxing the muscles so we can get into the deeper layers of connective tissue, deeper layers of fascia and the joints, areas of the body that don't typically get targeted in a more vigorous or yang type of activity. next few breaths, slowly bring the torso all the way back up. Weight of the hips come over to the left, so we can bring the right leg out in front of us. Just moving any props under the left hip to the side. And then gently just moving the legs. You could use your hands just to massage the quads and the kneecaps. And we'll come into half saddle on the other side. So for this side, we'll bend the left leg, left knee, grabbing either a blanket or a block to come underneath the right hip if that's needed. And then coming down behind you onto the hands, forearms, or all the way down to the floor. Remembering that depending on the orientation of your bones, you're going to look different than me. So you might actually have your left heel all the way out to the side and the left bum all the way on the floor. Returning to the breath, knowing that it's normal to be feeling strong sensations through the left quadriceps and hip flexors. I like to think of yin yoga as a practice of becoming comfortable in uncomfortable situations. The breath is steady, calm, and fluid. And we're just taking this one thought, one breath at a time. Next inhale, we'll slowly start to bring the torso upright. Weight moves over to the right hip, helping the left leg to extend out in front. Moving props to the side. And again, just letting the feet flop side to side, massaging through the quads, the kneecaps. We'll lean back onto the hands, just taking a moment to rock the knees from side to side. And then we'll come onto all fours. If you have a blanket, we'll bring that to the front of the mat. Blocks to the front of the mat as well. And we're going to move into an upright dragon. So if you have sensitive knees, you could use that blanket, place it underneath the right knee. We'll take a big step forward with the left foot. The hips come forward and down. And in this upright dragon, you could use your blocks on either side, fingertips or palms onto the blocks. If it's too much to have the hands on blocks or blocks are not accessible, you could just rest the palms on the thigh or even lean the forearms onto the thigh. So in this upright dragon, we're really digging deep into the psoas major muscle. And the psoas is a huge hip flexor. It originates the lower lumbar spine, and then it travels down and it attaches to the inside of the femur or the thigh bone. And so this muscle often gets contracted and chronically tight with all the sitting that we do, sitting at desks, driving in our cars. So important that we take the time to release this huge muscle. This muscle also plays a role in our breathing, as the fascia of the psoas turns into the diaphragm. And if you're here just to get a good stretch, you can definitely ignore my ramblings. I'm definitely more of a distraction right now, as this could be feeling so intense. And we'll just heel toe the left foot out a little bit to make room for the torso to come down. We're going to move down into gecko. You could bring your hands onto the blocks. Your forearms could come onto the blocks or the mat. It's okay if you'd like to walk the left foot out a little bit wider, even let the left knee fall out, making space for the torso to come down. Notice the internal heat building. notice where the mind goes when we start to become a little bit uncomfortable. You might not like me very much right now. I know I never like my yoga teachers when they put me in dragon or gecko. That's totally cool. Just a wonderful time to become the observer. Just noticing everything that you're feeling in the targeted areas of the hip flexors and the quads. And taking our time to come onto the hands. We'll just walk the left foot in a little bit. Weight of the hips move back so we can slowly bring the left leg behind us. And then just letting the hips move side to side. We'll just take a cat-cow, just letting the belly drop and the chest open. And exhaling, rounding through the spine, chin in towards the chest, tailbone drops. And we'll set up for the other side. And bringing any supports that you might need underneath the left knee. And we'll take a big step forward with the right foot. Spending some time in upright dragon to start. Really isolating the psoas. Again, you could grab your blocks, have them by your sides, or just your hands, forearms on the right thigh. There's really no right or wrong, no wrong way to do this. So as long as you're feeling some sort of sensation through the front part here of the left thigh, you're totally doing this right. And shoulders relax down and away from the ears. Releasing tension through your jaw. Notice if the breath has become short and choppy. So allowing the breath to move fluidly from the belly. Breathing in, I am. Breathing out, here now. it might be more fitting, I am a dragon. And then we'll slowly just bring the right foot out a little bit. And we'll come down into gecko, coming onto the hands, blocks, forearms. Remembering that each side of the body can feel very different. So you might take a different position with the arms than last time. I'm going to stay up on my hands instead of coming down onto the blocks. Hips moving forward and down. Imagining the whole pelvis relaxing, allowing gravity to do all the work here. Let's take our time to come up onto the hands. Right foot makes its way back towards the midline. Weight of the hips sink back enough so we can gently swing the right leg around, coming onto all fours. Movements are very gentle and slow. And then we'll come on to our backs. Before we head down, if you have an extra blanket, we'll just roll that up and place it beside us. We'll use that in a moment. So coming all the way down onto our backs, we'll hug the knees in. And we'll just take a couple lazy twists. So the arms come out into a T, just knees fall to the right, to the left. You could linger on one side a little more than the other. And then when you feel as though you've released all the residual tension in the spine, we'll come into corpse pose, our final resting pose. I'd like to offer the blanket rolled up underneath the knees. It's a nice way to keep the psoas on slack as we come into the last moments of relaxation. again, closing the eyes, allowing the eyes to be so soft. The skin on the face relaxes. And all the work that we've done to open through the quadriceps and the hip flexors. And just notice how those areas of the body feel right now. We'll make our next inhale a little bit deeper. Exhale a little longer. Moving your fingers and your toes. Rolling out the wrists and the ankles. We'll inhale the arms up overhead. Stretching from the toes to the fingertips. Bending the knees and just allowing ourselves to roll onto one side. And then coming up to a seat. And sitting with a really tall spine, we'll take our hands together at our heart. Thank you for joining me on the day one journey into your hip flexors and quadriceps. And as you move through the rest of your day and your evening, I hope that the body, the mind feels a little bit more free. Namaste.